Welcome back to Tipping Point. I'm your host, Kara McKinney. Biden can keep his Easter eggs devoid of any Christian symbolism and his Trans Day of Visibility nonsense because President Trump is preemptively calling Election Day this year Christian Visibility Day. On his Truth Social account, President Trump says he expects to see the largest Christian voter turnout in our nation's history on November 5th. To drive the point home even more, Trump is calling on Biden to apologize for even attempting to erase Easter this year. And while Brian Stelter can try to fact-check that statement all he wants, we already debunked him on Monday. Now the ball's in Biden's court if he wants to risk alienating even more Christians at a time in which his party's coalition is already fraying, or if he wants to risk the wrath of the totally peaceful and not at all unhinged LGBTQ activists holding our national politics hostage. Though I think it's pretty obvious at this point where he stands. The White House keeps attempting to reassure the public that they never tried to erase Easter in favor of more trans pride stuff in the hopes that playing both sides will placate everyone without them having to take a firm stance either way. But I don't think that's going to work. I don't think they realize how much that proclamation ticked people off. And it's not like Biden can afford to keep ticking off large numbers of his own constituents. The latest polling data from the Wall Street Journal shows that Trump is beating Biden in 6 of 7 swing states right now. His edge ranges between 2 and 8% in states like Arizona, Michigan, Georgia, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina, if third-party and independent candidates are also present on the ballot. So at this point, Biden is just going to have to really rely on his Democrat vote-getting machine, which includes, as you know, plenty of ballot theft and rigging. But there's some bad news there for him, too. Another state is banning Zuck bucks. The Post-Millennials now reporting, quote, Wisconsin voters have approved a constitutional amendment banning private money for elections. The constitutional amendment passed on Tuesday after it was proposed by Republicans who were fed up with the money funneled into elections by Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg, dubbed Zuckerbucks. Wisconsin has spoken, and the message is clear: elections belong to voters, not out-of-state billionaires, GOP Chairman Brian Schimming said. Joe Biden won Wisconsin in 2020 after $8.8 million went to the state's largest 5 cities. A second question offered by Republicans amended the state constitution to say that elections could only be administered by actual election officials. Though this was already state law, enshrining it in the Constitution firms up the practice against legislative change, end quote. So bad news for Biden, but great news for us. Joining us now to discuss is Luke Ball, the CEO of Mason Borough Strategies. Luke, thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Great. So how important is it for Wisconsin to give Zuck bucks the boot?
Oh, it's crucial. It would be like George Soros coming into a public school system and saying that I'm going to buy all of your school supplies. You just have to include any curriculum that I want you to put into our education system. That's basically what it was. They were coming alongside and augmenting things that people would say were totally non-biased and that they were bipartisan and things like that. But in reality, they would not be augmenting the election security measures that Republicans are trying to put up, but rather trying to expand mail-in voting, absentee ballots, mass exploitation of our election system. So I believe that it is crucial because it also signals to everyone else that was going to try this if Zuckerbucks got away with it, that they can't do it anymore. I mean, I really believe that this was probably a test run and a trial run to see whether or not they could get away with it at the beginning. And they were getting away with it for a little while until election security-minded Republicans came in and said, no, we're not going to allow that. Just imagine the type of Trojan horses that the left would have utilized if Zuckerbucks worked and was allowed to just run free. And so in individual states moving forward, there need to be election security measures placed on the ballot, passed into law by state election officials, passed into law by state legislatures to ensure that this doesn't happen in any other states. Because if they get away with it in one state based off of one group and one organization from Mark Zuckerberg or whoever is going to be stepping in and funding these elections, they're going to get away with it across the nation.
Oh, definitely. And of course, now the idea I think on many people's minds is the gap widening between Trump and Biden? Is it meaning that the election, that gap might be getting too big to rig? Because we know, as we're talking about Zuckbucks and everything else the Democrats have been doing, they have a lot of nasty tricks up their sleeve, right, when it comes to manipulating and outright rigging and stealing elections. But, you know, as I talked about earlier, the Wall Street Journal, that poll is indicative of so many others. Trump is beating out Biden in so many swing states. We also know, looking at the numbers from March, the RNC and President Trump's campaign raked in over $65 million in donations. They have over $90+ million cash on hand right now. They more than doubled what they had at the end of February.